Hello, everybody, and welcome to this new edition of GM Web3 dedicated to MultiversX ecosystem. I am very happy to be here like every Wednesday at 8 a.m. UTC to speak about what's happening on MultiversX. So today we will speak about the current situation of MultiversX with my guest. They will arrive in a bit. But before, I would like to thank the two sponsors, the two partners of this show. And first of all, I would like to speak about Atom. So Atom is a lending and borrowing platform on which you can lend, you can borrow, and so you can generate some very interesting yield. So you just need to connect here and to lend and borrow your assets. It works with many ESDTs. You can also use their solution of liquid staking. Novel, I don't know why is it novel, but anyway, so it works with MultiversX ETLD and Bit and Soar, and you also can mint and stake USH, the first native stablecoin on MultiversX, to generate some very interesting yield. And if you own HTM token, you can of course, increase the yield thanks to the booster. So as you can see, it's really, really, really intuitive, very cool platform. So if you want to do DeFi on MultiversX, this is the place to be. So thank you very much, Hatem, for your support for months now for the freedom of speech on MultiversX. And second, the second sponsor, the second partner of GM Web3. I think you know them, but look, it's very cool. It's EAPES. So EAPES is one of the first, one of the biggest, maybe the biggest NFT collection on MultiversX. So they were born 3 or 4 years ago when it was NFT season, and now they launched their new collection on Solana with the same art with but with like many new attributes. So still very cool, and they made a partnership with Magic Eden for the launch, the pre-launch of this collection. And yeah, as we can see, it was a success since they sold the 100% of the NFTs. And so they will be, of course, next round. So feel free to jump on their socials to know more. But yeah, it's a very cool art as a PFP. I remember that I wore one of these PFP for for years before. So yeah, if you like the art, if you like the NFTs, so yeah, feel free to go and check what they're doing. They're in my opinion, one of the most resilient program and project in the world. So today I would like to speak with you guys about different topics about MultiversX. But before all, of course, it's very important for us that you like, that you repost, that you comment, that you share the link on Twitter, of course, on YouTube if you're watching us on YouTube, but we also live on Twitch. So interact, give us some strength. You can also contribute to GM Web3 thanks to the TP that we launched recently. So you can give like a minimum of $1. It's in euro actually. If you want to support our work, to give you some objective, neutral analysis. So before I receive my guest, I will tell you about the program of today. So today we're asking the question that's been on everyone's mind, whether they dare to say it out loud or not. Is MultiversX dead, or is there still hope for a rebirth? I know it's a harsh question, but with everyone I speak from MultiversX community, builders, investors, and so on, I think none of them has never asked the question. So over the past month, we've witnessed an avalanche of concerns. The EGLD price collapse, major project failures like co-wat, we'll speak about it, of course, endless delays, we'll speak about them, broken promises, many soons, a growing distrust, not only from the community, but also from investors. Uh, where is the IBAN, the Acceler bridge, the partnerships, the premium card on Exportal, the, I don't know, the, where is the trust? That's the question. So, what happened to the bold promises, the vision, the momentum, the time to be there, buy GLD and you'll thank us later. So is it just a temporary storm, or are we watching the slow death of a project that once promised to change the world and to onboard 1 billion users? So I've been there for years now. I've loved MultiversX. I've loved founder's vision. Now I'm a bit more critics, it, but I still love the vision of full sharded, very decentralized, and European blockchain. I still love many builders, many investors, many community members, and that's why I'm still here. And today, we won't shy away from the hard question. No censorship, no blind loyalty, no cult, no tribalism, just facts, analysis, and honest debate. And that's why I will not be alone, because I want to be challenged and maybe I want to change my mind. So let's dive in together and try to figure out, is MultiversX dead or can it be reborn? So for this, I will receive my first guest, Harry. And we share the same love.
We do. I thought my
today, as you can see, I wear the full set because I could have spoken about boogers, but we never like chill projects here. But but as you can see, I will because Rock is a friend, because I think it's fresh for the ecosystem. So yeah, this week is a very important week for our friend Rock. Because it's Mint week. I think it will be in 5 days on 30th. So go check what they're doing. Go check what's the vision. Go check what's the art. And if you like what they do, support them for for the good of MultiversX and the good of this project that has been built for like 2 or 3 years. Hello, Harry. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you doing, GR?
I am doing very good. Thank you very much for coming this morning with you. We have so many topics to talk about. Just maybe people don't know you. Can you maybe tell us quickly in which project are you involved and what do you do on MultiversX?
I'm kind of involved in a lot of projects right now.
I
know. But Project X is probably where my heart's at in terms of I'm a DAO leader there. I'm also an avid holder of Project X. I'm also an avid contributor to Boogers in terms of winning the SoFi campaign, the last SoFi campaign. I work for AI Nexus in the background.
Congratulations for the 20,000 installs. Congrats, guys.
Thank you very much. We're very proud, very proud. And at the moment, I'm just focused on onboarding people to the Clone Machine, getting more and more projects from all over different ecosystems, which has been a bit of a journey for me. And I'm actually surprised how welcoming people from other ecosystems are. I didn't really expect it. I thought I'd be hated instantly for being MultiversX and places like Solana, but no, everyone's been great. They've been lovely, made all kinds of different connections. And I've been involved with stuff like X Cities, as you know. So I was a speaker at X Cities. I was also one of the event organizers. So I've obviously been involved in a lot of MultiversX initiatives. And that's why I'm wearing the hat and the the top. I'm going to be as balanced as possible. But these are my hat and my shirt. We're making MultiversX great again, for these two projects and many other projects.
Thank you, Harry. Great to have you today. We'll welcome Joe as a second guest. Joe, hello, how are you?
Hi everyone, thanks for having me again.
It's always a pleasure. So tell us, what time is it at your place? Because you're
Uh,
at the opposite of the world. I always
yeah,
want to
yes,
know.
yes. It's 10 past 6, 11 past 6 now. PM.
Okay, so end of day for you. Thank you for joining today. Today is, in my opinion, critic situation, but it can be in a good way or can be in a bad way. We can see that the founders and especially Benyamin announced a lot of things because I think he feels what's happening in the community and in the ecosystem overall. So we'll try to speak about this all together, and I really want to have your opinion. And as you know, guys, you can say whatever you want, take the time to tell it, and let's have a free speech and free chat about it, not about us, not for us, but for the community who's listening, so they can make their mind maybe above all the bullshit, all the egld equals scam. We're not talking about that. And the same as like egld to $1,000. Okay, we're not here for this too. So let's try to have some constructive and balance chat together. So maybe I would like, because there are so many things, but first, just a quick question to start. What's left on the MultiversX promise on 2025? If we go back to the initial promise, so what's left in a few words?
Well, I suppose we've got the upgrades coming. That is a promise that they hopefully will fulfill. They've managed to get through the first upgrade with Andromeda, so they managed to keep that promise. And we got Supernova and Barnard coming up, and Barnard just passed the vote. But there's a lot of things on that list that you gave at the beginning that I just don't see coming anytime soon. And there haven't been any conversations about it. Premium cards, for example. I mean, we don't have access to them in the UK because of Brexit, but there's loads of different things. I remember being in X Day, the last X Day, that they said that they were going to bring out, and a lot of them didn't come to fruition. Though I think at the end of last year, we kind of had a summary from Benny regarding what they've dropped, stuff like X Worlds, etc. But I think there's still questions up in the air about how much they spent on the the X Worlds partnership. And there's loads of things. There's a list. Cheers for that, GRM.
Yeah, because this post was made by a small account on MultiversX, but as you can see, it had a lot of echo in the ecosystem. So that's why I want to share it today. And there we have like the last promises, like new CEO for the foundation, of course, the card, the adoption in the 1 billion users, of course. We have Acceler, which is still in a soon process. IBAN, of course, on Exportal with the X Money. X Days also, Seoul was cancelled and it was supposed to be one in the USA. No news about that. Lucian spoke about securing 500,000 million this year. So this one is not fair because we're just on June. So let's let them some time. But yeah, Joe, what's left on MultiversX compared to the initial promise? What do you notice about that?
Yeah, look, I think if we step back a little bit, what's if I was to say first, what the team is really good at is basically delivering on the promises, broadly speaking, of tech side of things, right? So they're good at even if it's a little bit late, but they eventually always deliver on a lot of the tech upgrades, especially the foundational tech upgrades at the protocol level. Now, where it's kind of falls apart, if you like, not in a negative way, but maybe in a more challenging way, in terms of the timelines, is when it gets to the products, when it gets to the marketing, when it gets to, all the other stuff that it evolves around the ecosystem. Now we can see that they're actually trying. So it's not. I don't think it's for the lack of trying. It's that there is a plethora of challenges that involve both the markets, the sentiment, with the investors, with the VCs. We're talking about the bigger investors, bigger VCs, the bigger market sentiment, with the adoption and everything else. And there is obviously regulatory complexity there as well. So I think the problem in its isn't really the delivery and the broken promises, but more so that people would like a lot more communication, which I hope, again, through the recent communications, that this is changing for the better. And this is, I think, quite important for the people, as people are not really, they're not killed or bothered by the delays, more so the silence of the non-delivery. So I think this
I
is the
um
important thing.
I agree with you. When Benyamin on last September, just after the arrival of Adam Bates, who left a few months later, when he arrived at the town hall and he said, "Okay, X word and X fabric is over." When he says that, the community welcomed it like, "Okay, thank you. Now we know the worst in this situation is the soon or the silence." I completely agree with you. But at a protocol level, I agree with you in terms of the blockchain they are delivering, but in terms of product, in terms of interoperability, in terms of a centralized stablecoin, in terms of even all the product in the core product. Now they are independent, but anyway, there is so many delays, and the vision is not clear because I can get that it's not up to them. They cannot say, okay, Axelar is today. Okay, centralized stablecoin is today. Okay, there are so many things that are not in their power, we can say, but it was announced at X Day, like a big event, like saying soon,
Mm.
and it's not there. And in my opinion, there's a lack of humility. Says, okay, we failed, or okay, it will not happen this year. So sometimes some transparency and humility could be very well welcomed by the community and even the biggest haters. We will welcome Subject with us. Hello, Subject. What's up? Subject, can you hear us?
There's a lot of Project X people coming in.
Okay.
If
So, Subject.
subjects struggling, I just want to make a quick point, and also playing
Sure.
devil's advocate, because I am like somewhat positive about MultiversX, but I think another kind of all this stuff that we're talking about, this failure to deliver products, is a byproduct of their obsession with having to make these apps themselves. So there's a huge potential to bring in people to build some of these solutions instead of having them do it all in-house. X Spotlight can be an example. They even announced like a Paint the Moon app, which was very left field. It seemed to be some kind of passion project for one of their team members, etc. But they were going to make even that, and that's something that could easily be made by an outside team, which could bring in a revenue for an outside team, which would bring in more users and stuff like that. And they have this situation where they're always trying to do everything in-house when it could easily just be done by new people coming into the ecosystem and building it for them, or even existing ones. Because a lot of the time, and this happened to me at last X Day, is that you hear two of their products and you go, damn, we were building that. Or we really wanted to build that too. Well, you hear it from someone else across the room. And it's just like, why don't they just let everyone else do it? And a lot of these products are always dropped, X Spotlight being one of them, so it'd be good to start, hand these things out and get them to focus on the tech and onboarding new builders.
You're absolutely right. And you know what you say is very interesting, because not everyone is selling it publicly, but like very often builders put the beginning of MultiversX failure when they launched exchange. It was a Maya exchange at the time, because by doing so they cut the ground from under their feet. Not to mention that everything was permitted. It was a permission at the time, listing on X portal, on X exchange, and so on. So by wanting to control everything and maybe to build everything by their own, they dried up all initiative and innovation. So now I think they learned about that. So that's why it's more permissionless. They decided to make the entities independent. They stop building the project by themselves, but because they don't have fund for this anymore. But anyway, it was from many builders' opinion, really, I speak like with them, and I think you do too. Every single day, it's maybe the initial mistake. And I know the answer of Robert and the other co-founders. If we did not do it by ourselves, maybe nobody would have done this. But so what from the other ecosystem? They give grant, they attract builders, they incentivize builders to come and build it. Maybe you can support them. Of course, you can do. And you know what? We have HashSwap, we have Exchange. So we have all other DeFi platforms, DeFi protocols in the ecosystem. But anyway, what you say, Harry, is, in my opinion, maybe one of the biggest mistakes they did. But we're not here to speak about mistake of years ago, but we can feel the consequences even today. So that's why it's not useless to recall it. Subject, let's try again your mic.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, I'm so happy to have you today. Because, today, what is great, guys, we have the dark mode. It's me, and we have the light mode with subject, because it's the new narrative on MultiversX. Benyamin saying we need more subject. It's the light, the high IQs, okay, and we have people like me, Solver, Ramsey, Vortex. We are the dark mode, the dark part, the dark side with very low IQs. So I am very, very happy, subject, to have a high IQ and a light person in the space. About that, I would like to talk about it. Let me just show you something. Yes, it's this. No. Where is it? Yeah, it is this one. I will show the post. I think it's fun. Can you see it? Yeah. So it's Benyamin calling for 10 alive subjects for every solver NPC. So in solver, he speaks about all the people that are asking questions and maybe pointing facts on the ecosystem. So dissolve darkness with overwhelming flood of light, as simple as that. So what do you think, guys, sincerely, about this narrative? It's esoteric, it's religious, it's maybe we can say something like sectarian, with the good and the evil. We have something like it's a fantasy narrative. And people often talked about cult around Benyamin. And when there's cult, there's hate and there's love. So it's not like reasonable, it's above all. So what do you think about this kind of speaking from a CEO? And what do you think about this way of I don't know, like dividing the community between the good and the evil? Do you think it's a good way to sort people, to block those who are in the dark mode? What is he doing? or do you think it can be like counter productive? Maybe I would like to start with subject, the light guy.
So, in general, I definitely respect Solver, and I prefer not to be pitted against. I think actually made a lot of posts where, I give some validity to, the people that are lashing out in frustration because, obviously people are in pain and, we're down bad, down 97, 98%. There's a lot of people who've put their life into, this ecosystem financially, maybe irresponsibly, and they're having, bad reactions. And so, I can appreciate that, the desire for transparency and connection and some reassurance. Uh, you know, I see that. At the same time, things have gotten to a point where we're seeing people call for violence, people who really don't know anything and, who aren't looking into, the reality of how hard the team works, people who, they're being very casual and cynical. So, I can understand from, it's one thing me being, on Twitter 24/7 and, seeing things from the ground level. I can only imagine from Benny's point of view, maybe he only has a few minutes a day to look at what's going on online. I don't think that he could necessarily see all of. Sometimes Solver makes posts that are actually kind of positive. So, I don't imagine that Benny catches all of those ones. I think Solver also represents, a different in Web3. The TA guys, they kind of get imbued with a little bit of, authority more so than, uh, maybe technical analysis is, obviously I respect technical analysis. I think it's important. Um, but I think that if you don't give the supports and, the potential pivot points, I can see how that shades things negative. And, this cycle has been very different. We're seeing cults win. We're seeing, the what is it, InfoFi and all the social metrics are being surveilled by AI. And, this is a different cycle where you kind of have to brute force that positive vibe. Uh, it's a cycle where we're seeing, I can only imagine for these guys who've put in 8 years of hard labor on the tech side, seeing memes go to billions in market cap must be
Hmm.
incredibly
Okay.
frustrating. So,
Thank you, subject. I know that Joe needs to leave very soon, so I will give him the mic last time. So, what do you think about this division between light and dark narrative, Joe?
I've always believed in balance. So there's where there's light, there's always gonna be dark. Where there's darkness, there's light. Like it's never complete darkness or complete light. So in that respect, I see both camps, and I agree that they need to coexist. And there are some things that I would probably do differently. For example, some very small things. For example, as a someone with authority like a Benny or a Lucian, I probably would not opt into blocking people, more like muting people, so that you can get rid of the noise without causing too much havoc. But that's obviously his choice to deal with that however he likes. And they are all that the team is very busy on multiple things, and they're trying to make multiple things happen. So I think being empathetic, especially in this environment, does help a lot towards the cause. And I've always tried to be positive, right? And when I'm not overly positive, or at least I try to be constructive. And I encourage people to try and influence things that they can actually, make changes to, and actually, you know actually drive positive influence into whether it's the ecosystem or life or wherever, whatever situation you're in. So worrying about things that's and narrating on things that you are not really in control, and then really putting blame and kind of pushing that negative energy through into the ecosystem, onto Benny, onto Lucian, onto whoever, in the team. I think that doesn't make things better. I think the constructive criticism does, because then it drives change. So I agree with that, but I don't agree with all the negative hate comments on, hey, the violence and all the things that are currently happening at the moment. Those are the things that are not constructive. They don't really do anything apart from make people agitated.
Yeah, but
Um,
just before you go, if you have two more minutes, don't
sure.
you think it is part of the game on X? I mean, can you imagine any founder, any politician, any entrepreneur, any public person like me, like you, like anyone?
Mm,
Uh, it is part of the game to have critics, to have people that
absolutely.
disagree with you and so on. So if you spend your time by blocking them, it's giving them exposure. It's not a scalable movement, because imagine today you just have like 10 haters, but tomorrow, if MultiversX is adopted by billions of people, imagine how many
Yeah,
haters you will have. So you just need to mute them. But if you block and if you speak about them, so you give them exposure, you give them importance, it's the Streisand effect. So it's not even in marketing terms, it's not even efficient. So that's my point. It's not about do they have the right to speak. Actually, they do. So the
they
thing
do.
is, isn't a part of the game when you decide to launch a token to fundraise with Web3 methods, that you have the Web3 other part, haters, trolls, and
Definitely.
that's part of the game.
That's definitely, and I think that's a necessary part of the game, because that's part of the pain of any founder, not just the team, but we're talking about Hatem, we're talking about Sol, we're talking about Zoic Snow, any project that's here or everywhere else, they're gonna have lovers, they're gonna have haters, and it doesn't matter if you're the president of the United States. I mean, a lot of people are gonna hate you, right? It doesn't matter how good you are at doing what you're doing. You're not going to have 100%
So because
positivity towards you.
So, last question, and after I release you, so what do you think about Benyamin's reaction and the other co-founders? Don't you think because they are fragile, or because the critics point facts that make them uncomfortable? We say in French, y a que la vérité qui blesse. Only truth hurts. You know what I mean? So,
Mm.
what do you think? Do you think it's just because they are fragile? It's a hard time for them, and so they are maybe too sensitive, or because it's the truth that hurts them?
I think there is a bit of everything. I mean, we gotta also remember they're human beings, right? So they still have emotion, and sometimes it's hard to suppress them. So we gotta give them a break in terms of that. But they're going through multiple things, and then perhaps they're having a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, and then they hop onto Twitter, and then they see more bad, and then they might trigger some emotional response that might have pinpointed a certain thing that is not going well at the moment, and that is a common thing with founders, right? We're trying to get, for example, I'm just talking about an example here. We're trying to push XLR integration, but it's just keeps delaying, and then obviously people are having commentary online to say, oh, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? But they're already putting in the hard work, but they really can't do anything else because it's out of their hands. So, an example like that would be a bit of a trigger to go, okay, well, I mean, we're already trying as hard as we can, and we're pushing. So,
Yeah, but
I think
those
it's a bit of everything. It's a bit of everything.
it could be solved with more regular communication, more interviews, more AMA, more
Correct.
regular things.
Correct.
So you can say, Guy, I talked about it last week in this podcast, in this interview, in this thing. So it will be easier to answer haters because they only speak with like very long and esoteric posts or
Yeah.
one community hall every 3 months, because it was
Yeah.
supposed to be every month, but now it's not even. So the less you communicate, the more people talk for you.
Yep. Yes.
Thank you very much, Joe. And I wish I could have you longer, but next time.
I
Okay.
hope that either.
Yeah. Yeah, I was saying I wish I have you longer, but next time. Okay, there's a problem. Seems like there's a problem. No problem. Okay, I hope he will come back just to say goodbye. If not, thank you very much, Joe, for coming and tell your opinion about that. So, Harry, I will give you the mic to give us your opinion about this, religious narrative between good and evil, because between light and dark side. What do you think? Do you think it's pretty good, or do you think it's not?
I mean, as a person who comes from a conflict resolution background, I spent years in complaints and so on within a company in a very high stress situation, because it was life insurance too. So you can imagine the kind of complaints we would get. I don't like the approach. I never liked the approach of blocking people, etc., and just cutting out that voice. But I will say, and I actually have had some recent conversations with Joachim on this front, who is a regular for yourself. Shame you couldn't be here today. But it was a great politician answer. It managed to kind of label this problem people as extremists. GRM, the extremists that we see posting online all the time, etc. Now, I think he lumped in everyone together. I don't think you or Solver would match the same kind of extreme views that I would say that we were seeing out of Vortex, or people like MultiversX who called it a gypsy chain, for example, and stuff like that. And I think that was unfair. However, from the team's perspective, and I'm trying to empathize with them, they must be extremely stressed. And this comes into this idea of being fragile. I'm not necessarily saying that they're fragile in the sense that they can't do anything, they're going to collapse at the moment anybody puts a feather of criticism on top of them. But they're in a state of survival. They need to get this funding from the US. We don't know the runway. We don't know how long they have to fund the foundation. And it's very hard to help others and take on board other people's criticism when you're trying to remain highly convicted in your product to convince others to pay for you, to spend on you. Now, one thing I would say, and although they've been historically terrible at taking criticism anyway, we've seen people like Ben P, I think, from Dinobox, who just gave normal criticism, but I think it was in a sea of extreme negativity, especially since the price is down. So everyone is naturally very low sentiment. But I think they're getting better in the sense that they're switching to this kind of spotlighting the builders mindset, which you even commented yourself. GRM has been.
We'll speak about it just after.
And then the feedback form. Nothing's come of the feedback form. It literally released yesterday or the day before.
We'll speak about it later. So,
and then X Alliance. I'm just saying that these are the things that they've kind of moved towards accepting this criticism. So they've set up X Alliance as well, which acts as that kind of intermediary between the community and them. So they can take the feedback and then they can process it and then put it in a way that can really go to the team, because they have that greater connection. And we've seen that recently because we gave, I think, feedback on, XGenie. So when XGenie came out and it was giving all this negative comments about every token, as we saw, everyone who was a X Alliance member, we all shouted about it in the chat. And within 30 minutes, things changed. They got that update out within about an hour, 30 minutes. So we are seeing there's a funnel now, a funnel of information. I just think that X Alliance needs to take more of a foreground point of view and actually go out for that feedback themselves and act as that intermediary more. And I think that's something that we're lacking.
Thank you, very much, Harry. We will welcome Davey to join us in this chat. Hello, Davey. What's up?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Very good, very good. Thank you for coming. Davey, just for people who knew you, you were at Soul and Atom team as a business developer, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Great. So we started to talk about the current, very current issues of MultiversX. After we'll speak about the different decision, the different solution that the CEO announced a few days later. But maybe let's speak about the economical situation. I would like to have your opinion about it. And especially about the financial situation and the price, and so the economic security of the blockchain, because EGLD is now around $10. No, a bit more. I think it's 12 or 13, but you know what I mean, because it's very volatile. And we don't have any news about the fund rise, and we know that MultiversX needs money to fulfill their objective and to compete in the layer one competition. But we have an EGLD that is lower than ever. I saw it was last time it was around $12. It was in December 2020, so it was just a few months after mainnet. So do you think it's something that is a problem for the security of the network, because we are in proof of stake? So of course the value of the total EGLD staked is part of the economical security of the blockchain, and above all, if they don't raise fund in the United States like it's planned to, do you think they will manage to continue to build and to compete in the layer one situation and competition? So I will take the mic. I will give the mic to Davey first, and after Subject and Harry, feel free to have your say.
So it's a complex topic. So we could say that based on the current design, if we don't have enough value distributed to validators, we are not giving a reason for validators to secure the network. So it's a clear, massive problem. Currently, most of the, let's say, most of the value directed to validators is coming directly from inflation and is going down every year, like as with Bitcoin with the halving. And the question that we should do ourselves is what happens when those rewards coming from inflation will not be enough to pay for the cost of validators. So we now have probably like 150 to 200 staking agencies. The question that I'm asking myself is how many of those would continue to validate even if there are not enough incentives? And also is a question for delegators. So all the people that are staking on MultiversX, would they stake on MultiversX if they didn't get any meaningful reward? Because basically you're locking your assets for 10 days, and so you need to be paid for that because it's an actual risk. You're locking your money. Even if you liquid stake, you still have some extra risk compared to have some liquid asset. And I don't know how to solve that. I know that in the industry, they are discussing for different models. I've seen Celestia, which is another layer one, proposing a proof of governance model, which distributes value only to those that are active in governance. I know that some chains didn't have rewards, so we had Algorand that didn't distribute rewards to validators initially, but now they changed the model.
For example, excuse me to interrupt. Yesterday, I hosted a dedicated space to Sui blockchain in French. I invited people from the ecosystem to know more about the blockchain, like I did before with Avalanche, Ethereum, and so on. And I learned that the yield for people who stakes is around like or 2.5%, because the foundation privilege make a priority to use the SWI in the ecosystem, in the DeFi protocols and so on, instead of in the security with the staking. So it was an interesting topic to maybe orient the fund to inside the ecosystem on protocol like Atom, instead of incentivizing between like 7 or 8%. It's more inflation, and it's not useful to the ecosystem. Of course, we can speak about liquid staking, because it's now possible with LST to make DeFi with the funds. But it's one more barrier, and some people maybe don't know or don't master what is liquid staking. So what do you think about that?
Like the actual economical security, like the goal of that is to prevent attackers from attacking the network. So how expensive would it be to acquire a lot of EGLD, staking those EGLD, and then having as much validators to alternate the network, for example? So if we had an extremely low staking rewards, how many people would unstake? Because the risk would be too high compared to there wouldn't be a good risk opportunity ratio. That's the question. So maybe even if we had 20% stake supply, it would be enough, because maybe the attack would be too expensive, but we can't really know. And also, how important is that? So would we really have a possible attacker acquiring, I don't know, 5% of the supply to own 33% of the staked supply, for example? They are really valid questions, and we don't have answers.
Sure. About that, and I will let Subject and Harry the mic just after. But in this regard, Benyamin announced a few months ago deep change in the business model and tokenomics around MultiversX, and he said that he will tell more in the coming months. He will also involve the community in this. So we don't have any news about that. So same topic. When you speak about something, normally the thing should be ready. When you speak about something that is not even begun, you just create frustration, expectation, and after you just need to say lower your expectation. So I don't know if you have anything to say about that, but same. What do you talk about something that will happen like in months, maybe years, and not to talk about it? And after you reproach with people asking when tokenomics change, when tokenomics proposal, but bro, you talked about it first. So why? Because you had like nothing else to say. You needed to say something to exist. So that's part of the problem, in my opinion. And what do you think, Harry or Subject, about the economical part, and maybe about this like change of business model and tokenomics that was announced a few months ago by Benyamin? Subject or Harry? Yeah, Harry, let's go. Oh, sorry, because I muted you because of your
I apologize.
typing. No problem.
So I agree with you. I don't think it should have been announced so far in advance, and it was so there was no detail. So everyone was left to their own devices. Everyone thinking this finite supply is suddenly going to grow massively because he's going to increase it and cause inflation and stuff like that. Because we had no clue, and everyone was just left guessing. This is something that would probably have been better kind of announced closer to the time when they actually had details, as you said. And it should probably actually have a whole thing dedicated to it, not just a little side note. It should actually have a comprehensive discussion on highlighting all the plans that they think they're going to try. Stuff like other economical models, like Davey was saying, like Celestia, and like going through them and thinking about what we can do to solve the issue. I wanted to talk just briefly on how validators are going to cope. I know that some validators, these were probably the bigger ones, said that they could go down to $5 and still be profitable. But this was a little while ago that they announced this. So I can't remember the exact details on who it was. I think we have to wait and see what this new economical model is, because it could change our entire outlook on the situation and actually allow the system to function.
Okay, David, subject, if you have anything to add, just write up in the private chat so I know if you want to say, and if not, I move to the next topic. Subject. Subject. Because I muted you. Sorry. My bad.
Oh, you're good, man. Yeah, I think the other piece of the puzzle here is that, if we are having an economics change, it'd be great if it came, with a much more, involvement from the community. I think we want to be part of the process at all stages. As soon as, we want to know what's even being considered, because, just yelling economics change is like yelling fire in a building. It's definitely going to set off a lot of speculation in all directions, even if it's unwarranted. Obviously, I think the big piece that the community forgets is that they are just as aligned with, when egld price goes down, they're hurt just as much as anybody. I think that maybe that's up for debate among some people, but I think that the team, sometimes they do react personally because it is personal for them. And, I think that they feel they've earned the trust, and, that we should believe that they're just as aligned, and they've dedicated their life and, many years to this. So I think they want that trust from the community. And there is a big, knowledge, expertise gap. So maybe the things that they're considering are beyond the level that most of us are at. And, I can appreciate that, they want that trust, and, they've definitely earned a lot of respect, but it's also Web3. So the degens want to be involved.
Davey?
Like, talking about the thing that you said about the economics changes, my worry is the community may have this idea that some economics change can actually solve major issues, but in fact, this is hardly the thing. So we've seen this with Max, for example. They announced a complete redesign of the tokenomics. They changed the way that incentives were changed, but ultimately, you can do any Ponzinomics you want. You can change any economics, tokenomics you want. But what matters at the end is how much value you are able to generate and how much value of that you are able to capture. And we have major issues. So if we see in the industry, where is value being produced? Is value being produced by the actual block space being sold? Is not the case for now. Is not. Where is value being generated? Basically from selling the order flow. So if we see for Solana, if we see for Ethereum, most of the value comes basically from priority fees, from mempools fees. So basically people aiming to pay more for the transactions in order to front run other people, to have their transaction being prioritized compared to others. And we don't have that on MultiversX, and we don't want that. So the question is, if we don't want this specific revenue stream, how are we going to get some revenue stream that is going to pay for the ecosystem to be secured, and also redirecting to GLD so that the GLD grows in value? It's a really honest question to ask, because we decided to go to be anti-MEV, and this is where most of the value in some other major blockchains is coming from. So what is the actual plan? Like even Base, even these L2s, which don't have some specific priority fees, like they still have this sequencer that have some priority fees and capture value. And on MultiversX, we made our principle to be against that. And this the source of income for most of the leading blockchains. So they either find a new way, a new revenue stream for a blockchain to justify a 1,400 million market cap. Otherwise, they would probably have to go against their own principles and say, okay, we're going to do math because it's the way that we can survive. Or maybe they have something else, but I don't know. Like, being someone that follow a lot of blockchains, for now, we don't have a clear answer for that.
Okay, I agree. It's a very hard question: how to create value in a sustainable way. I think it's not possible today because every blockchain are in a proof of concept stage, in my opinion. But yeah, you can attract builders, you can attract developers, you can make your ecosystem grow. That's something that is in your power. And about the value, you know what, fundraise is the basis of every financing startups. You know, today, like, Uber is 14 years old and it's not even profitable regularly. Amazon, it was 7 days 7 years, sorry, before they were profitable, and we can give so many examples. So I think it's not about being profitable, it's about creating revenue, of course, but also creating a complete ecosystem that will maybe tomorrow enable creating value in a sustainable way. But you're right, as today non-blockchain creates enough value by selling their blocks. That's clear. Except maybe Bitcoin and not even Bitcoin, because they're inflation that are paying miners. Yeah. So I would like to speak about the governance, transparency, and trust part on MultiversX. And for this, we will analyze the solution that Benyamin Minku made about these two Telegram channels and the forums. Let me just find this. Okay, so let's do it like this. It's here. Okay, so it's my post, but you can of course go and read it, but it's more about the post. So in this post, Benjamin, it was yesterday, I think, there were two parts in this post. First, it's not even the good one, because there was a first one which was funny, in my opinion. I will share it right now. So let me change the screen. It's this one. So in this post, Benjamin this was a little bit angry. Okay, wanted to fight against trolls and toxicity, etc., etc., and he talked about this. Let us be clear that such instigations are criminally prosecutable by law, and as a proactive measure, we have notified adequate authorities to stand by. So several of these individuals have crossed a dangerous line, escalating from disrespect to harassment to purported aggression. It is genuinely heartbreaking, bewildering, and revolting to witness such behavior. So, in this post, a very long post, he says that there is always a space here for honest dialogue, constructive feedback, room for disagreement, but no aggression, provocation, lies, toxicity, blah, blah, blah. So what is interesting in this is it's, in my opinion, the first time that a Web3 founder decides to sue haters, trolls, or even people in the social network saying that this coin is a scam. So it's pretty funny. Second, in my opinion, it will not be efficient at all, because first, I don't believe he will do it really. Second, even if he does, it will be like a huge stress and effect because it will be seen by the whole Web3. What is this CEO that is suing some trolls in the internet? Oh my God. And third, this campaign is, in my opinion, a bit illegitimate, because by doing this, he puts in the same basket people who are like creating a telegram to make a putsch, you know who I am talking about, like gathering people in a telegram and searching to destroy MultiversX by saying things, by posting under the other post, and maybe to create some alternative to make the founders step out. And in the same basket, he puts Solver, which is just doing some technical analysis and on-chain analysis on X. People like me, who is sometimes like with humor and sometimes with analysis, giving his opinion about an ecosystem which I know very well. And you also have Romsty, who is asking questions about transparency, governance, sometimes in a hard way, sometimes in a smoother way. Anyway, so by doing this, he, in my opinion, make the division even bigger. And yeah, so when I read this, to be honest, I found it was funny. And but there is another part in this post, a part on which, and after I will give you plenty of time to give your opinion, but I would like to be complete about this last proposal, because we also have a second part of this sequence from Benyamin. So you have the prosecution part, and you have the open dialogue part in this post. So he proposed a form. So it's something like that. Okay. So you can write your name, message, email, and so on, and you can give your feedback. And you have the MVX feedback telegram, so a feedback where you can make some constructive feedback. Who will say what is constructive, what form, what condition, we'll see. And MVX boost, so it's a channel to boost initiatives, posts, and so on. Yeah, so it's the two-part plan of Benyamin to sue people, the haters, the dark side, and to give the tools for people to make real feedback. And so that's why I made this draw. I think it was funny. And I will, I don't know if you saw this. So yeah, it's the. Anyway, so guys, what do you think about this whole plan? I think Davey wanted to start.
Mm, Personally, I think it's extremely risky from a founder of a blockchain network to go, like, basically to say, I'm not really for freedom of speech and for people to express whenever they want, till the point where you are basically saying that you could sue them, while blockchains were built with cyberpunk values, which were for total privacy, total freedom, total anti-government. So I don't know, like, I think it's extremely risky from a positioning point of view.
So it's the prosecution part. So
Yeah,
yeah.
the prosecution part.
And what about because let's try to be balanced and maybe more than me. But yeah, you have the prosecution part, which is, in my opinion, and I agree with you, not just risky, inefficient, because let's be clear, nobody cares about that. Okay, let's be clear. I will not go to court because of a tweet, because I ask question, or because I said EGLD is a scam. You know what? I say what I want. And when I say it's not about me. I'll never say EGLD equals scam. But some say it. And how will you make them pay things for that? Yeah. So what about the second part, Dave? About these telegrams and forms. So do you think it's something that can be efficient, or is it just a new action to to win time, to earn time, just to maybe make the community calm a little bit by giving them the feeling that they will be heard. That's the question. What do you think, Davey?
I think it doesn't matter. Like at the end, what matters is you have a direct connection with the community feels heard by you, and also maybe you convert those that are skeptical into people that maybe becomes believers. So even if the goal of this is simply winning time or trying to please the community, trying to make the communities feel welcome and by the foundation, I think it's a good effort. The only like this is why if I were to make the message, I wouldn't have focused on, yeah, we're against hateful people, etc., etc. But maybe something more like, we hear you, we are here for you. We know that this period can be frustrating, but here's a way to connect with us, to share your feelings, your feedback, and we are working hard to make things work, to make MultiversX successful. Because at the end, is what matters. And yeah, I don't know if this will give any real value, because mostly like we already get all the feedback. So maybe the Motivated Foundation, maybe projects, maybe the KOLs that are still active on the chain. So I'm not sure if we'll have some extra valuable feedback, but at least it gives, from a positioning perspective, the idea that the foundation is here, the foundation will listen, or at least it gives the perception that it will listen to the community. So a good move, in my opinion.
Yeah, but what you say is interesting. I will share this comment from Vortex. I, of course, don't agree with all what he says, but this is, in my opinion, pretty interesting. Instead of wasting time with this, they could have answered directly. They already know the biggest concerns. And I pretty much agree with this because, to be honest, the it's not very hard to know what's the problem on MultiversX: communication, marketing, lack of like of news about things that were announced before, esoteric like post. We don't understand anything. It's just about mindset and bullshit and so on. This is the problem. We also have the builders who struggle sometimes to like get anything from the foundation, or it's hard or it's complicated. We have the growth game, like many applied, a lot of people did not have any answer, and those who have answers, it's yes, and after it's, oh yeah, maybe it will be more complicating than that, and after no answer. So this is the problem. They launch different action, but it's never well executed. And in the meantime, you have builders, you have investors that are losing money, time, and resources. And you can see outside, you can see other ecosystem that are seen as better places. And so we have projects that are dying, we have projects that are living, and we don't have any projects that are arriving. That's the problem, in my opinion, on MultiversX. It's not about just technical or anything. So I don't know if we really need this forms or Telegram, except maybe to give people the feeling that they will listen to you. But yeah, okay. But you could just have read you. So, what do you think, Harry or Subject, about this plan? Prosecution and forms, Google Forms and Telegram channel. Subject to start.
Well, in the same way that I wouldn't dare to tell that Benny that he shouldn't be able to communicate about the community. In the same way that I don't prefer for the team to be silencing or blocking people. I think Benny is free to approach this, especially. I have seen some of those violent kinds of threats, and not just the egld scam kind of comments, but stuff that goes far beyond that. So, I do think that at a certain point you have to kind of shut that down. I think it might be better coming from somebody else, maybe not wasting Benny's time. And Twitter should also be if people are making serious repetitive harassment, or X should be policing that as well. And then I do think it's good to have a complaint bin, just like any company would, or a suggestions box, and just kind of segregate some of those. I think it's more effective and constructive if we have a place to put it. I hope that it does get filtered, and that there's actually some transparency around somebody that's actually curating the things that are valid, and maybe we get a periodic kind of transparency report, or some of the things that came up, just so that we know that it is being looked at seriously and considered.
Harry?
Is there much background noise?
No. It's okay.
No. Oh, thank God. All right,
That's perfect.
Perfect. I just want to answer the question that came up a second ago from Marlon. I think
Which one? The one before?
Scalability is security.
The scalability. Yeah, I answered in the comment. Is MultiversX scalable? But I will let you answer.
I think theoretically it is. We don't have the demand to test that.
Yeah, but when we had, it just crashed.
Yeah, but a lot of the time that wasn't due to the chain itself.
I know, I'm just kidding. But when I say it's not scalable, it's because before Supernova, the transaction remains very, very long.
But I think if I was to directly answer the question itself, is that it's not valuable to users, etc. I mean, security probably is, but from a builder perspective, this is why a lot of us are already building on MultiversX, is of the technology underneath. And yes, all these things aren't important to users, but it's important to builders, and then builders build the things that are important to users. So in terms of specifically scalability and security, I think it's important to the builders, who then encourage the users. But that's just a quick answer to that question. I think adding in these more Telegram groups and so on, there's already a lot of Telegram groups. We really got the founders Telegram group, developers Telegram group. We got, and they have trouble managing all these as it is.
What you say is so right.
Let alone adding in these further ones. But I know that they're calling for volunteers, from X Alliance and so on, to kind of be there to take that feedback and to funnel it back to the founders themselves. So maybe if they get enough volunteers, but it's difficult. We're most of the people in X Alliance are building stuff and doing other things that are important to them. So it's difficult to find time for such initiatives. So they really need to think: do they actually have the capacity to filter through all these feedback they're going to be getting on these Telegram groups? So it could be a bit benign. It could be well-intentioned, or it could be a distraction if we go by what GRM says. But it's going to be difficult for them to manage. And just about on the prosecution side, whether he should be calling for prosecution at all, I don't know. It doesn't give a good look. I probably wouldn't have gone that route. However, if I said in the UK, we have very strong internet rules in terms of what we say online, and we can have police actually knocking on our door. So if I said things that some other people said, like gypsy chain and so on, and someone was to complain about that, I could have a policeman knocking on my door to tell me off and potentially put some kind of order on me. So it's difficult. I don't think they have to go to court and prosecute in some of these countries. They can just get the police to knock on people's doors and intimidate them from doing it. But yeah, I want to touch on some of the points that you made as well. Like marketing was one of them. These are the core complaints that everyone should know about at this point. I mean, the marketing seems to be getting better. I'm not saying it's been perfect. I don't know if a Times Square advert really makes a big difference if you can't find the information online. But they're making efforts in that stride with also the TRBE marketing deal. I don't know have all the information about that, but it seems a step in the right direction. And builders are getting more support from the foundation in the sense that they are getting spotlighted now, which was another problem that we had before that we had concerns about. One thing I will say, and this is about the esoteric posts, and I'm going to say Benny talks like a philosopher. He goes on these long, big worded, almost like Plato. He talks like Plato, and you can give him a concern about anything, and he will talk really long-winded about it for ages. And I think this is where your original problem with Benny came, is when you interrupted him during some Christmas special that you did or something like that, because he just talks really long-windedly and he talks around the point, and it's so philosopher talking, and it doesn't make you sound, it doesn't make you feel heard. So if you're saying your concerns and then he goes, well, you need to lower your expectations, and things are going to get better, think about the rockets we're building into the sky and stuff like that, it doesn't make you feel heard at all. He never repeats what the concern is, so you never know that he actually picked up what your concern is, and then everything he talks about is so far from the point that you just can't get anything from it. I think he's not the best at conflict resolution because he talks in a specific way, but this is also the way that inspired a lot of people to join the chain back in 2020.
Yeah, but yeah, what you say is interesting, and I agree with you. Most people join MultiversX for different reasons. There was, of course, Benyamin, like charisma, the narrative. It was not exactly the Ethereum's killer, but it was in this meta. And it was about sharding and so on, first of all. Second, it was about, of course, the marketing campaign, KOL and so on. It was also the price, of course, of EGLD. And of course, people wanted to invest in this very new layer one because there was potential in this coins infrastructure token at this period. But you're right. At the time, Benjamin was respected because he hasn't failed. But since he failed, he made mistake, he lied, and so on. So at this moment, everybody's ready to forgive anyone. Me first, you first. When you say, okay, I failed, okay, it was a mistake, so let's move on. But when you don't have this courage and you just say, no, it was not a mistake, it was an experiment. Bro, it was with my money, so it's a mistake. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's speak about this campaign with TRB. It's interesting because you know what? I wanted to speak about that just a few minutes. When they release such news, okay, they are partnering with TRB, which is a platform on which you have credit and you can spend credit to organize KOL campaigns. Okay, so it's like a Amazon. So you put in contact projects in KOLs and you use credit to pay the campaigns. Okay, so it's like a marketplace. The thing is, they are partnering with it through the growth games. So growth games is a campaign that they launched last December to attract builders through the AI narrative, mostly $1.5 million what was put at this in this campaign. As far as I know, no project raised from this campaign, and I even heard about people who applied and who never had answers, or maybe had an answer, it was a yes, and after no sound, like silence, and after, oh, okay, sorry, yeah, it will be a yes, but it will be more complicated. So it's not a smooth process, we can say. And anyway, so they are adding to this campaign, the growth games, this campaign with TRB. So the $1.5 million, sorry, as far as I know, is in credit. So it's not cash, in credit in this platform. Pretty cool. And it's 1.5 million more than the first 1.5 million. So makes like around $3 million in worth to attract builders. So saying like this, we can say, okay, it's great. But are we forced to say it's great? Or can we say, okay, what's about KOL? What's about this platform? What will be the condition to be eligible? Why the $1.5 million, the first ones, did not work? Why this ones will work? So that's the question that I think we should ask to the team, so why they decided to make this partnership, what do they expect from it, what are the objective of it, what are the resources the foundation have put to analyze the appliance, to help maybe builders to make better project in this campaign and so on. So that's the question. It's not just, okay, we made this partnership, we made a very beautiful visual, and that's it. No, it's not that it's not just it. So that's what is interesting when a new campaign is launched. We want to know why this campaign, how you will execute it, what are your expectation of it, will it be enough? So that's the question that we can read in the comment and also from members from the community. So we will receive Endu, and I will remove this. So Endu, hello Endu, Project X founder, how are you?
Hello, hello. Thank you for the invite again. I'm very good. How are you?
Very, very good. Thank you very much. Of course, you missed part of the previous chat, previous questions, but don't worry, we have many more coming. But maybe before we move to the next topic, I would like to have your opinion about the last announcement from Benyamin. You know, the light and dark side, the low IQ and the high IQ, and the solution to this we can say distrust from the community. So one part is about prosecution, suing the haters, and on the other part you have the forms, Google Forms, and the two Telegram to give constructive feedback and to boost everyone's post on Twitter, basically. So what do you think about this program of Benyamin to make the community strong again?
Well, we have to see how it works in practice. But this thing, this period happened on many other chains. For example, Solana had to touch $8 to break the all-time high. At $8, everyone was footing. Everyone was very bearish. There were only a couple of people who, bought the bottom and trusted blindly the team. So it's an experiment again. The channels are okay, I think. People asked for them. They wanted to give feedback directly to the team. They also wanted to have their projects shared by team members, foundation channels, and so on and so forth. So again, we have to see. There's no clear winner in how do I handle this period in time. But if played right by them, by the lead, I mean, it can take off from here because again, we touched a bottom, $11. I remain very bullish myself. So we have to see how the experiments play out. I can't say if it's amazing or if it's bad. It depends on how they play it.
Yeah, but what Harry said before was funny because there are so many Telegram groups that was open these last years. Oh my God, you can't even imagine how many Telegram groups they created to solve an issue, and these groups are thousands of them, and like most of them are ending with no response. So yeah, let's hope that these two Telegram will be animated and answered and so on. It's very important because you know what? If you open a Telegram for feedback, so first you will have many feedback, okay? But if you don't have feedback on feedback, people will stop making feedback in this Telegram and they will make it again on X, and so you will not solve anything. So yeah, when you propose this kind of a Telegram, you just need to be sure that action will be taken. If not, you just maybe earn 3 days, no more.
I agree.
Yeah.
But on these new ones, they added a lot more people from the community side. So there are a lot of X Alliance members there who will read, who will manage them. Of course, there will be trolls who come in there just to say the same thing that they got banned for in all the other telegrams. but there are a lot more people volunteering for this now. So it might work out differently than the others.
I hope so. Thank you very much. I'm not in the group, to be honest. Maybe I will come just to see as a journalist. Anyway, let's move to the next topic. And yeah, I would like to speak about the end of COAT. I think you saw it. So COAT is was I don't know one of the biggest projects on MultiversX. They raised $10 million in EGLD 4 years ago, maybe 5, I don't remember. And because he wanted to support the ecosystem, Hugo, the CEO, never sold this EGLD except to pay for operation, but he never swapped the fund raised in stable coins or even in fiat currency. And so in this post, it's like a post saying that despite all of his efforts, he could not save COAT from the continuous decrease of the price of the GLD, and the price of a GLD is directly connected to the treasury of the company. And so I will read, I've made the difficult but necessary decision to initiate the sale of all of COAT's charging infrastructure assets, because yes, Hugo built many recharge infrastructure all over France, and he has many contracts, even I think outside of France. But unfortunately, yeah, we are no longer in a position to reach profitability within the allotted frame time. So he will do his best to return the exact amount of 67,000 EGLD raised in 2021 and 2022 by people, COAT cards, coins, boosted rewards, and so on. So he wants to reimburse them. He wants to make it fair. He wants to make it, appropriate in this situation. Of course, he's disappointed. I will not speak for him, but I'm sure this is something that is a big decision for him, who have spent like hours and hours to make COAT possible. But yeah, if we want to be fair with it, keeping the treasury in volatile asset was the original mistake. And for him and many others, I remember Symbiosis, Aquaverse, and all of this project on MultiversX, but it's the same on any ecosystem. Okay, but let's speak about project that we know on MultiversX. When you decide to speculate, we can say, with your treasury, with your turnover, there's a risk if the coin is not going the good path. But yeah, and we have here Marlon, which is the CMO of COAT, and he says he's extremely hard on him. We can, of course, share this, but yeah, let's maybe analyze. My question, guys, and I will let you, of course, say what you think about it. But it's a discussion I had with builders on a group yesterday. Do you think this failure is one among other? It's like one more failure or one less project. So be it. Let's move on. Or do you think because it's one of the biggest project on MultiversX, do you think it's something that is really saying something about the ecosystem? And let's go back to the initial topic of today: is MultiversX dead? Because without any project on the chain becomes a ghost chain. And so what's the point of building an infrastructure nobody's using? So that's the question, and I of course let you the time to answer with a nuance, balance, and an argument. So Davey, you wanted to start.
I'd not stress too much on specifically COAT failing. Like, it's normal. Like, startups are meant to fail. the failure rate is extremely high. It's something that happens all the time in every industry, and it's even higher. There's even an higher failure rate in crypto. The question is, how much would Quot increase the chances of success on another chain? Maybe they would have got more funding. Maybe they would have more distribution because of more users. In general, like if we were talking about MultiversX, a startup failing is not a problem. The problem is you need quantity, because you need to beat the statistics. So if 90% of startups fail, and also you have this composability on chain, so that all the different projects building on chain compound and generate more value together. If you don't have a lot of startups, you are not going to have a lot of successful startups. So you can't really go against the statistic and say, yeah, I have 10 startups and 10 startups are going to succeed. It will not work. Like, it's impossible. Like 90% will still fail. Maybe we do better. Maybe it will be 70%. Okay. Out of 10 startups, it means that only 3 will succeed. And if we only have 20 startups, it means that most of them will fail. And other chains that have 200, 300, 500, maybe even 1,000 startups, they're going to have way more successful startups. And the compounded value of them is going to outcompete MultiversX. So the question is how, the point is, if you don't attract a lot of startups, there's no way in which you are going to have a lot of successful startups. This assuming that the goal is to attract startups and to build on-chain economies. Maybe the goal is another one, and is to onboard institutions, so already established and successful companies. That would be a viable path. But I don't know, most of us in the crypto space like blockchains that focus more on the grassroots approach with startups and this type of dynamics. Like, I like this more, for example.
Got it. Who wants to take the follow up? Harry, maybe, or Endu?
I think I'm going to kind of echo the same sort of things. Is that it's only tied to the performance of the chain because he left it all in EGLD, which is a mistake that he owns up to. I'm not saying that he hasn't taken ownership over that. And it is really sad to see another project die. But if you have in real life costs, you're creating a business, you need to have a stable treasury. He should have turned the majority of it into USD so that he could use it on the costs that he's going to have. And if he had done so, maybe it would have been better in some ways. Yes, the price would have gone down at the time, but he could have supported his token more with buybacks from that money. He could have built more charging stations, etc., which may have not left him in the position today. So it's hard to say it's the fault of the foundation or any kind of reflection on the chain, other than the fact that he left it in there in EGLD and the price went down. I can see some comments. MBMs has suggested that he must have conversations with the foundation, and this allegedly led him to keep it in EGLD, and that they essentially scammed him. I mean, that's all speculation. It's still the case that you don't hold 100% of your funds that you need for your business that you fundraised. I mean, that's the beauty of what MultiversX or Elrond at the time did for him, is it gave him the ability to fundraise via crypto. So he wouldn't have had his business necessarily if he didn't do this via crypto avenue. I don't know what his position was in terms of being able to get some kind of loan from the bank, etc. But it gave him that ability to have his business in the first place. And I just want to touch a little bit on what Marlon said a bit earlier, because it also relates to this in some way. Because he says, why are builders building empty houses that have no users? And why aren't we building more things that bring attention from outside? I mean, that is something, I mean, I'm going to directly answer his question. You came for other things, Marlon. You were an investor and the price went down, but you stayed here using the apps on the ecosystem. So that's capturing your attention. And I can see you have a drifter profile picture. So you even identified with drifters enough to make it your identity online. which is another thing that was possible because there were people building. Drifters built on MultiversX. Also, there's still money to be made in other, what I consider to be the best use case and most obvious use case, which is decentralized finance. You can beat the bank on the APRs that are produced, etc., which is another reason why people come to these ecosystems, not just to invest and speculate on price rises and price decreases, because you can put it all into stable. So yes, we do need more apps to attract from the outside. Completely agree with you. And I think we're seeing that more with AI Nexus, onboarding people through in the background, because we need abstraction, because that's how we're going to onboard the next lot. But we also need apps here to capture the audience, to keep them around, to keep them using and exploring the other things that are on the ecosystem. So I think it is important that we have builders also specifically building things for MultiversX and use on MultiversX. You may think it doesn't have a use case, but if there are masses and there are, you just need one app to bring in the masses from the outside, and then these will start being used more and more. So yeah, that's my answer to that. And I thought it was relevant to this as well, because it's this idea of building products that people don't need and things failing. So
Wouldn't you say that we have examples of this idea of yours not being true? Like, for example, with Polygon, we've seen a project that reached mass adoption, which is Polymarket. And despite this, the Polygon chain itself is not doing as good as you'd expect with one project that even the president of the United States talked about. So it also depends on the type of product. So even if we had one product with 1 billion users, it wouldn't mean that it would leak value to the whole ecosystem, as we see with Polymarket.
Yeah, you're quite right. It depends on the thing. I mean, Polymarket is like a fully on-chain. Like, I think I don't know how many people from outside use Polymarket compared to people who are Web3 users. I mean, a lot. Okay, well, that's cool.
They have like millions of users.
Yeah, millions, millions.
15 millions.
From the outside, or were these largely Web3 originally who have decided to use it?
We don't have the statistics, but I think 90% of the users are not Polygon users. That's for sure.
Yeah,
because there are no Polygon users.
Exactly.
I do agree, David. It depends on the model, the model, how it feeds back into the ecosystem itself. But people still pay with Matic, right? On Polygon, you make your bets with Matic, or is it USDC and stuff as well?
You can do EVM, most of the EVM, but you have to transfer them onto the Polygon chain. But you can use all the wallets that are used on Ethereum. So the liquidity is Ethereum liquidity.
But
You can even
you
can even onboard from Solana pretty easily.
It's good, but the liquidity isn't in Matic. I mean, this is again what you're talking about. It depends how they build the product. So if it was only to be used in Matic, then you'd see a pouring of Matic money into Matic. But if you keep it into subsidiary tokens, it's not in their liquidity. It's not in Matic liquidity.
Okay, guys. Maybe subject wants to add anything about the failure of co-what. Is it just one more, or is it symptomatic of projects that are dying more and more and none are arriving on the chain? Because you know what, just to finish before I give you the mic, in my opinion, and I will be cynical, is not the death of project. It's part of the game. Okay, we know, and Daniel Serb made a post about it to make it maybe easier. Startups fails. Okay, 90% fails. Okay, we have the statistics. It's normal for startups to fail. Okay, I think we got it. The problem on MultiversX, because we're speaking about MultiversX today, is not about project dying or about project moving. It's their entire right to do so. What is more problematic, in my opinion, is we don't have new project. We don't have project that are arriving in the ecosystem. So that's the problem. If we have projects dying, but many projects borning, would be great to have this, but we don't for years now. Even X Launchpad, which is supposed to be the best way to attract builders, because we can provide like a thousand of hundred of thousands, even billion, million of dollars of funding. The two last project they launched, MultiversX is just part of the roadmap. It's not like MultiversX at the beginning for different reasons. Okay, it's not the point, but you know what I mean. So that's the problem. It's not about project dying. It's about project not arriving in morning. Maybe yeah, subject. You want to say something about that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely discouraging, to see, especially an old school project on the chain, one that we know is gritty and really tried their best to stay here and succeed. I'm a little bit curious why they didn't jump to Solana quicker. I wonder if that, because it seems like a perfectly good project, a good fit. Real world assets has had a bit of a narrative this cycle, at least at certain points. So, I wonder if they had made the move earlier, if they could have salvaged it. But yeah, it's part of just a brutal winter. This has been a really unforeseen for a lot of people that it would go on this long.
Definitely agree. So guys, this show will come to an end in a few minutes. I will give you no first, guys, let's speak a little bit about Barnard upgrade, because GM Web3 dedicated to MultiversX is about the debate, the discussion, the chat, the critics, but also what is working. We spoke about Bugas, we spoke about different other topics, but yeah, let's speak about the last upgrade, because I think it was approved by vote a few days ago, like a 98% or something like that. So maybe to those who are listening to us, I think most of you don't know what Barnard is about. Okay, because it's not like super Andromeda make transaction faster, cross shard transaction mostly. It's not about supernova, which will be even faster, so something you can feel in your user experience on the chain. Barnard is more about the governance. So the Barnard 1.10 upgrade marks an important milestone for the MultiversX network on the path to the supernova release, which will happen by the end of the year. So this update introduces a fully on-chain governance system, giving the community the ability to propose changes and vote directly using their staked or liquid GLD. So as far as I understood, if you use 500 EGLD, you can propose something, and there will be a vote. It will be for, pro, yes, no, abstain, and veto. If there is a veto on your proposal, you lose the 500 EGLD staked. I think it's a way to avoid any absurd proposal. So it's a step toward a more decentralized and transparent decision-making process. As always, in my opinion, this kind of upgrade is not well marketed, because I'm pretty sure that most of the community don't know about it, don't understand about it. But this is something that can be very interesting. Beyond governance, Barnard brings several technical improvements too. So gas penalty model has been adjusted to be fairer, preventing abuse while keeping costs reasonable for honest users. A new data pagination feature makes it easier for developers to access and process on-chain data efficiently. And the upgrade also introduces millisecond level time handling. It's a necessary change at the network prepares to reduce block times to 600 milliseconds in the supernova upgrade. So overall, Barnard strengthens the foundation of MultiversX, improving performance, enhancing fairness, and empowering the community to shape the future of the protocol. So, saying like this, I think it's a good thing for the MultiversX protocol, the blockchain ecosystem. Do you have anything to say about this upgrade? Will it change anything in you, in your personal life as a builder, as a investor, or anything? Yeah, Davey? I said Benyamin. Davey, let's go.
I
Davey?
don't know. I've been pretty like the actual way, like the thing that I've talked more about is the actual design of the governance system. So it's something that is on par with other chains, but I feel that is too uh like it's too harsh on proposals. So I think it would disincentivize people to make proposals. So I'm not going to risk 500 HLD if I risk them being completely lost. So I don't know
As
if it can be solved.
as Joachim said, and thank you very much, brother, about this precision. So there will be yes, no, no with veto, and abstain. And veto is not really veto. You need a certain percent of no with veto to be vetoed, and so to lose your stake. But what you say is interesting, because we know that these votes are very centralized. Actually, it's like always the same that are voting. So imagine if I don't know, you are not liked, or if you're not how to say popular on MultiversX, and you want to make a proposal, and some I don't know, validators or so on decide to veto you to make you lose your 500 GLD. But I don't know what are the other mechanisms of community and on-chain governance. But this 500 GLD is not a lot of money, like at this price, I mean. So yeah, to be honest, I don't have enough how to say element of comparison to say what could be better. And in this discussion, we have the pleasure to receive Joachim. Joachim was not supposed to come this morning, but actually he could not help himself. Hello, Joachim. What's up?
Good morning, good morning. Yeah, no, when you started talking about governance and everything, I thought I had to jump in.
Let's go.
I just thought I'd give a quick overview. So basically, the voting process, it is inspired by Cosmos, which basically it has the same logic, and it is quite interesting because Cosmos actually had a discussion about that voting system due to their latest discussions about tokenomics. So we kind of like, I feel like we're having the same discussions as Cosmos, just later on. And basically, my issue, and David said it well, is that you can have certain actors that go against you that don't even need the majority to punish you. And from a game theory point of view, is where it gets very tricky, because you don't have to pay anything to say no with veto. You don't risk anything by saying no with veto. And voting no with veto also counts as a no, meaning that if there isn't enough to get veto, you still count as a no, and therefore still count towards the majority if the no wins. So that the problem with that is, from again, if we take away any like morality, what's the normal thing to do, etc., just from a game theory point of view, if you're against something, you should just vote no with veto. Because everyone has the veto right, which again is a bit of a weird thing, because vetoes are supposed to be for certain entities only. That's why I think the name is actually quite confusing. But yeah, so I do think it's not the real solution, because it puts to something that could be highly debated and be close to 50-50. It suddenly gives too much power to the ones on the no to actually punish you for submitting a very good, potentially very good idea, just because they decided to play the optimal play, even if it's immoral.
And this voted by the majority of staking power, not the real majority. This is another issue because it's a
Yes.
plutarchy.
So the vote, you're very right to point that out, and the voting is fully linear. We started with a square root system, but it got dropped after the first vote. I think that was that for X Exchange. Anyway, there was a first vote that was with square root, and then it went over to purely linear, meaning that for every EGLD that you hold, you have one voting power, which again gives extremely much power to the wealthiest, while it gives close to none to people that could be very involved in the ecosystem, just not capital wise.
Yeah, because I think it was a quadratic vote before, but they decided to let it go actually.
Yeah, so the problem with quadratic votes is that you are then incentivized, again, game theory, to split your EGLDs to as many wallets as possible to vote, because then you outweigh. And like, while I agree this is a problem and you need to find a solution against it, and I think that's why I think like a log system is actually more interesting. But like, everyone could do that. That's the difference, right? Everyone could split their EGLDs thin, so you could actually go against that by doing the same as Finn, and at least we create transactions on the chain. But yeah, so I don't think we found a solution yet. And my main issue with governance in general is, as soon as you pick one model, because you're going to need elections to change, like a vote to change that, the people you gave the power to first will never accept to give it, to suddenly give it away for a better model.
Thank you very much for your precision, Joachim. And thank you, yeah, for coming anyway. Bye, Joachim. So, guys, thank you very much for coming this morning. We tried to speak about all the different things that are happening on MultiversX, and so I don't know if we can have an answer to the initial question: is MultiversX dead, or it will rebirth soon? But what we can say is, despite all the mistakes, despite the lack of vision, despite the mistrust from the community, despite the failure of many projects and the departure of some of them, despite all of this, the blockchain is still working, and the core team, are working hard, and especially all the developers, they are working hours and hours, and we know it, and it's important to tell. But yeah, we hope that we'll have more news, more positive news by September. I don't think things will happen during summer, let's be honest, but I hope on September or October things will move in the good direction for MultiversX, for the community, for the investors, for the builders, and for the state of art, because we all would like to see this full sharded blockchain succeed. Am I right?
Of course, you're
Very
right.
right. Yeah.
Take care of yourself, guys. Good luck for all the project that you're building. If you need anything, feel free to, of course, send a DM. Thank you to all of those who commented and interacted with us. You can find the replay of this show on YouTube, of course. So like, share, comment, and see you next Wednesday for a new GM Web3 dedicated to MultiversX. And for the French-speaking people, see you on Friday for a French GM Web3 with Abdel from Starknet. We'll speak about ZK proof, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and yeah, Starknet, of course. Thank you very much, and take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Bye.